What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. I'm getting caught up in my mic here. Hope you're all having a great day. Hope things are going well. We're going to talk about Arms Warrior today. Man, I've been trying to get this video done for probably 3 or 4 days, and I just struggled to sort of find the right footing with Arms. And it's not because I think Arms is in a bad place. I think it's actually in a great place. I just haven't, really spent enough years playing it to really know exactly kind of what the build I should be going for here is. There's some really different things you can do with Arms Warrior now that you could not do before. And different, archetypes, like a new Bleed archetype with Dragon's Roar and even Rend and Thunderclap. And there's, a lot of weird things you can add into Arms Warrior now. So I was trying to figure out, what the best way... not the best way. I was just trying to figure out if any of these new ideas actually had some substance to them, and it was tough. I struggled trying to take these builds into a dungeon. So, for example, the Bleed build, like I'm talking about, where you rend one enemy and then you thunderclap, and it's going to spread rend to nearby enemies. And I initially thought, man, this is going to do a lot of damage, but it just seemed to struggle to actually get there. And I tried to combine that with all the other Bleed effects. So you take Thunderous Roar's capstone here, which says that the damage of your Bleed effects goes up by 20% at all times. Bloodborne, Deep Wounds, Ren, and Thunderous Roar's Bleed effects deal 15% more damage. You got Blood Surge, where you're getting Rage from your Bleed effects, which is actually just a very good talent anyway. Blood Surge is a very, very good talent, and I would take this almost no matter what. And then Bloodletting, of course. Deep Wounds, Rend, and Thunderous Roar's Bleed effects last 6 seconds longer and have 5% increased critical strike chance. So I was kind of trying all that in a dungeon environment, and it just didn't seem to work out super well. And that was a little bit frustrating. So, yeah, I would just say that some of the new ideas that they've got here for Arms are actually they seem really good. But it just doesn't always seem to actually get the job done. And I'm not really sure what to say about that other than that's just kind of the way it is right now. Maybe they need to just tune the numbers up. And again, we are heading into the tuning phase. Blizzard has mentioned this several times now over the past week or so. They're now into the tuning phase of their development. They're done with the design. So again, I love the design that is here actually, particularly for something like the Bleed build. I think it's actually solid. Even with something like Skull Splitter, I was trying the Skull Splitter Fracture thing where you kind of rip the bleed out, but it doesn't seem to actually do anything. And if you read what Fracture says here, so when Skull Splitter damages an enemy, it causes your Deep Wounds and Rends to expire immediately. And I initially thought to myself, well, that means it must rip the remaining duration out of them, but I don't think it's actually doing that. It's either completely bugged or this is not meant as a DPS increase at all, which doesn't make any sense to me. It could just be a PvP thing, I guess, that you don't want the enemy to be bleeding because then you can't CC them. I don't know. It's really, really dumb if that is the case. So they got to fix some stuff with Arms. And then it'll be in a much better place. I think tuning all the Bleed stuff will be better. It'll be in a better place. Making the Skull Splitter Fracture thing actually work correctly will be good. So once we get there, then we can really experiment more with this build. But how's the rest of Arms looking? The rest of Arms looks fine. It actually looks really good. The amount of options that you kind of get in this tree are really good. Number one, the pathing in the tree is exceptional. You come down here and you hit Colossus Smash. You can go any direction you want with Colossus Smash. Boom, boom, boom. Anger Management is basically free. You can get Test of Might again, which is actually significantly nerfed from when they first introduced it. So Test of Might might not even be worth it anymore. This is a very nerfed version of the Test of Might buff. But you've got Warbreaker here. On the left side, again, you've got this Bleed package with some overpower tech. At the very bottom, you actually have a Execute bonus, so Mortal Strikes and Cleaves, giving you a stacking buff that makes your next Execute do a ton of damage. That's all really good stuff there. The middle is all about Bladestorm. Many, many talents to buff Bladestorm, which is really good. Merciless Bone Grinders here. I was trying that out in a dungeon. It seemed okay. Not really sure how I feel about it. It seemed fine. On the right-hand side here, we have a lot of Execute stuff and Crit. And again, One thing that's really, really cool, again, is just the pathing is really good. Like, look at every talent has, like, 3 different ways to get to it. Like, Massacre goes down here, and then you can go back into the middle, into Valor, or you can go down to Critical Thinking. From Dreadnought, you can go down to the middle or go to Deft Experience. Anger Management goes to either one of these two. Like, there's just a lot of build diversity here because you can pick and choose whatever you want. You can have a build that's got Cleave in it but doesn't have Sweeping Strikes. Or you can have Sweeping Strikes and Cleave and Blade Storm. So that's another cool thing about Arms now. There are multiple forms of AoE damage that you can do rather than just having to choose between Cleave and Sweeping Strikes like we kind of had to do in Shadowlands. Now you can have the Cleave option going, which would be good for multiple different points in a dungeon. You can have Cleave giving you, it'll just hit all enemies in front of you, and it inflicts deep wounds. And it can obviously consume this Martial Prowess buff. Overpower increases the damage of your Mortal Strike or Cleave, which is really, really cool. So Cleave is like that consistent uncapped AoE damage option. And then Blade Storm is, of course, the big uncapped AoE cooldown. It does deal reduced damage beyond 8 targets, but that's really, really cool. So you've got multiple forms of AoE. Contributing to that, again, is Spear of Bastion and Thunderous Roar. Again, more AoE buttons that you want. And obviously you can make your Colossus Smash, you can turn it into Warbreaker, so it hits all enemies as well. So all these options are like not very difficult to acquire. And there might be a boss fight. Let's say there's like a raid fight or something that you're going into, and you really only need like Sweeping Strikes because there's only 2 targets. Fair enough. You can unspec out of Cleave, gunspec out of Warbreaker, and go for Blunt Instruments instead, which is insane. Colossus Smash dealing 30% more damage and having its effect duration increased by 3 seconds. That's massive, right? You don't have to spec into all this stuff, but you can spec into a lot of it if you want to. And it just gives you more options. That's one thing I would just say for Arms Warrior. They do have options. They have lots and lots of options in terms of AoE, which is really cool. In terms of single target, there's a lot of really good returning talents like Sudden Death, buffs to Execute. No longer has a cooldown. It gives you 20% of the rage back if the enemy doesn't die. You're getting that proc on Sudden Death. Down here, we've got Juggernaut. Mortal Strike and Cleave and Execute critical strike damage is increased by 10%. More critical strike chance up here. You have Exploiter. Execute causes the target to take 25% more damage from your next Mortal Strike. And then Execute increases Execute's damage stacking up. Massacre, it can be usable. So you have all the Execute talents that you could possibly want there, guys. And also this Fatality thing at the end. This is a really cool new idea here. So Mortal Strikes and Cleaves against enemies above 30% health have a high chance to apply Fatal Mark. When the enemy falls below 30%, your next Execute inflicts additional damage. That's more of a Mythic Plus thing, but still very, very cool nonetheless. So, it's looking good, I think, guys, for Arms Warrior. Like, I think the talent tree actually looks solid. It needs to be tuned a little bit. It does need to be tuned a little bit. The last question that might be on a lot of people's minds is, how is the rage generation looking? And once again, because you have things like Avatar, gives you 20 rage. Thunderous Roar, 20 rage. Spear of Bastion, 37 rage. Overpower is going to be helping you do that. Blood Surge, all your periodic bleed effects giving you rage. Like, there is no shortage of rage. And let me just show you right here. So, we're going to run in. Colossus Smash. Do this. I can't show you guys the damage because the meters are broken right now. But I just want to show you. I want you to think about how smooth this gameplay feels right now. Okay, how smooth does it feel to be doing this? And my rage generation is perfectly fine. I'm capped out at 130 there. Gonna press Whirlwind again. There we go. That's my big spender. Whirlwind. I got an Execute proc. Another Execute proc. Let's do that. I should prop Sweeping Strikes. That was really, really bad play right there. You should have Sweeping Strikes up for those Executes because you're gonna need them. I'm pressing Thunderclap periodically to make sure that I maintain those bleeds. We want those Rens to stay on all those targets. Okay? But, like, I've never run out of buttons to press here. This is the one important note I want you to see, is that we just keep getting resets on things like Overpower, and it allows us to just continuously press these buttons. Here's Sweeping Strikes up again. I'm going to do that. Whirlwind. Okay. Sweeping Strikes is up. So I'm doing the big Whirlwind damage, and I'm doing Cleave damage. I don't have Blade Storm, but that's okay. My bleeds are falling off. We're going to reapply them with Thunderclap. Okay, we're back into Colossus Smash. Here we go. Big damage. Keep cleaving. Okay. Execute. Gonna slam here. Whirlwind's up. Let's press that. So, like, my avatar's almost back. Everything's almost back. Oh, my Ren fell off. That's horrific. I'm sorry, guys. Avatar's back. Let's press that. Get back into it. Dragon's Roar. Let's do a big spender before we Dragon's Roar. There we go. Dragon's Roar. We're going to be back up to full in a minute here. The way I've spec'd my Whirlwind right now, I'll show you in a minute, but it actually has a longer cooldown than normal. And it basically does giga damage. There's Spirit Bastion's back. We don't need it because we're capped, but we'll make sure we try and spend our rage. Use slam as much as we can. So, guys, I just want to make sure you can see that for the last like 2 minutes straight, I've been pressing a button. Every GCD, there's something for me to press, and it's all significant. It's all good damage bonuses here that I'm getting. I haven't run out of rage at all. There's no rage problem for Arms Warrior whatsoever, and I'm just continuously able to press my buttons. I'm totally screwing it up. I'm not pressing buttons at the right rotation and stuff, but you can just see we're trying to focus on how smooth it feels to play. That's the important part right here, because the damage meters are completely broken right now, which is very sad for me. I don't know how many of these. It's hard to do these videos without damage meters, but it's just so smooth. You know, the rage generation is really, really crazy. The bleed effects are contributing so much from Blood Surge here. Periodic bleed effects have a chance to grant you rage. So that's coming from my Rend, Blood and Thunder. Like, my Thunderclap spreads my Rend around. My Rend is giving me rage back. And then I press Cleave, and it's going to inflict deep wounds. That's giving me rage back. And then the bleed from Thunderous Roar is also giving me rage back. So very, very good. This feels really smooth to play. I definitely have too many buttons in this build, and I know that you guys who are really good at Arms Warrior, let me know kind of what builds you would be rocking. I did have, I think somebody was showing me a build. I forgot. I don't have it in front of me now anymore, but it feels good to play. Let me just say that right out of the gates. It feels really, really good to play, and I don't think that there's any real issues with the spec. The tuning needs to go up a little bit on some of these different things. But let me just show you really quick how I'm building Whirlwind. This is a really interesting talent here. Storm of Swords. So Whirlwind costs 30 more rage, has a 14-second cooldown, but it now deals 200% more damage. So this is a very different play style that you can choose to opt into if you want to for Arms Warrior, where you're just like, hey, listen, I'm just going to make Whirlwind a huge cooldown. Obviously, this is reduced with haste, and my haste values right now are completely terrible. It's 8% haste. It's so bad. Imagine if I had 25% haste. This would go from a 13-second cooldown probably down to like a 10-second cooldown. And then it would be like really, really crazy. So that's an option. You can do Storm of Steel for a longer cooldown but a bigger damage chunk on Whirlwind. Or you can do the collateral damage thing. When Sweeping Strikes ends, your next Whirlwind deals 25% increased damage for each ability used. And you can have Whirlwind as a more spammable option. Also, if you come down and take the Bladestorm tech, you can obviously do this where you press Bladestorm and then you Whirlwind, 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 Whirlwind until you run out of rage, basically. And that would be really cool as well. And again, guys, I think, like, hopefully you saw there, we are just not rage-starved at all in any way, shape, or form. Like, we're just not. So that's really, really good. Important to see that, you know, if we were rage starved, that it would be a really frustrating experience, I think. But really, the reality is that we're not. We're just it's just a really solid kit altogether there. So let me just show you some footage here. This is me in a dungeon. This was me trying to do the bleed build that I was talking about earlier, and it just doesn't really work out very well. This guy here. This tank, I just want to say once again, this is a prot warrior, and they are completely giga chads right now. They're doing way too much damage on the beta. On top of that, this guy was 70 eye levels ahead of me. He had like a whole bunch of gear that he'd purchased or whatever to make himself way, way stronger. So just keep it all in mind. The damage numbers, you have to be really careful when you're assessing these damage numbers. As I always want to say, this is beta. This guy's also using a file, one of those files, to make himself do more damage as well. I'm not using any of that stuff, and my eye level is 70 below his. So, again, just another thing to keep in mind. So, I think the damage on Arms Warrior actually looks pretty strong for where we're at. Again, he's not pressing anything special. He's just 70 eye levels above me. So, that's what's going to do that. So, but it's good. The damage is good, and more importantly, it feels really good to play. It feels fun to play. Like, it feels like You're getting the cooldown on Warbreaker down really, really quickly because of anger management. And when you press that Warbreaker, man, you just come crashing down and absolutely destroy the earth beneath you. It feels so good to press that button. Now, again, I was trying to do this kind of rend thunderclap style build, and it just didn't seem to do a lot of damage. So this is something that they can work on. If they are truly into the tuning phase, then Blizzard can start to work on these numbers and maybe buff them up just a little bit on the bleed side of things, if that's a build that Blizzard is okay with being viable. You know, that's something that we'll have to monitor as they get into this stage now, week to week. But having all these cooldowns is really incredible. Spear of Bastion and Dragon's Roar and Avatar. And I was spec'd into the Avatar capstone node that basically says when you activate Avatar or Colossus Smash, you get Recklessness at a reduced value. So, again, more rage generation. Anytime I pop Avatar, anytime I pop Colossus Smash, and I'm popping Colossus Smash all the time because of anger management. Anger management reduces the cooldown on Warbreaker, right, which is my Colossus Smash. So, just, you know, very good synergy there that every time I'm popping that, I'm getting a huge boost of rage generation so that I can just spend as many spenders as I want, you know. Is it boss time yet? We're close, right? Oh, it's this second boss here, but yeah. That's basically all I want to say for Arms Warrior, guys. I do think it's in a really great place. I think that it's got lots of wonderful things in the class tree. If you do want to take the Thunderclap plus Blood and Thunder Ren build for a spin, you can try it. I don't think it's tuned correctly right now. Let's wait and see what Blizzard does. Maybe they're going to make it much better. I hope they do. They just need to buff it by, like, honestly, maybe 15% or something would make it incredibly strong. But all the tools that you get from the class tree, Spear, Bastion, Thunderous Roar, Avatar, once again, all generate rage for you. Like, there's no problem with rage for Arms Warrior at all. It's so, so good. They all generate rage. They all help you do incredible amounts of extra damage. And then the main part of the kit, the regular part of the kit, you know, things like Blade Storm are still there. And this interesting Whirlwind tech that I was going for, all your execute talents are there. You have multiple forms of AoE now. You have Cleave, you have Sweeping Strikes, and you have Blade Storm, Spear of Bastion, Thunderous Roar. All kinds of, like, big uncapped AoE, and then the smaller Cleave AoE that Arms Warrior is really known for, right? It's a Destro lock of melee. It's the melee Destro lock, right, where you get that ability to just cleave to that extra target, and that is really, really cool tech for Sweeping Strikes as well. So, yeah, it's all good stuff, guys. Like, I think the pathing, that's the last thing I'll mention here, is that, as I said at the beginning of the video, the pathing in the arms tree is very forgiving. You can go kind of wherever you want to go. You go hard to the right, and then you can go make a beeline for the left. If you just wanted to pick up one or two talents on the right-hand side, and you can just easily go back around, and you can go back over to the left-hand side and pick up other stuff as well. So I think it's good. I think if you like Warrior, if you're enjoying the state of Warrior right now, Arms Warrior is feeling very fresh. It feels like there's no struggle for rage whatsoever. It feels like your abilities are hitting pretty hard. It could be tuned a little bit higher, especially the bleed stuff. But otherwise, guys, it feels good to play. And that's the most important thing to always think about. Always keep that in the back of your mind, that it feels really, really good to play. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it, guys. Helps out the algorithm and the channel a whole bunch. We're trying to make our push up to 3K subscribers. We're almost at 2.5K, so we're kind of getting there. Big push to 3K subscribers. Let me know what you think in the comments down below about Arms Warrior. For all you Arms Warrior mains, let me know if you're really, like, disappointed by the tree or what you think about it. I think it's, like, clean right now. I think there's a good template there. It's a good, fresh beginning. And lots to build on for Arms Warrior. Like, I just think that it's playable right now in the current state of the talent tree. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you so much again. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.